Alrighty, time for another video before we lose the light. As we can see here, since our last video, quite a bit of progress actually. I think last time we didn't have any paint on, so now we do. The back wall down there is complete, so that's finished. Most things aren't, but that bit's done. So next I'll get some lines and tie off to the fence there and tie to these bushes and start training these bushes to grow in behind the house. Just to camouflage it from the neighbours a little bit, because that will look cool. We've got a vent in today. This is a piece of recycled thing. As you can see, I just cut the bottom off because it was missing a louver and it was all, I found it in the rubbish. It's a piece of shit, so I'm going to paint that and make it look nice. But it's gluing and sealing at the moment, so yeah. Did a quick job of putting our solar panels on this idea I've got of just stringing two lines off the tech screws that hold everything together on the house and then putting the panels on. They don't line up though, and it looks a bit ugly, so I at some point will adjust that so they do line up and everything fits nicely. But yeah, I think that's kind of a cool way to do it. It's a bit flexible and stuff. A lot of zip ties and hopes and dreams holding all that together, but it is electrically functional. I tested it all before, so that's cool. Got a triangle window in. The masking didn't go very well, so I've got a lot of clean up to do on that. And obviously over here you can start to see where we haven't finished painting the outside of the house. Hut. Over here we've got lots of expanding foam that we put in to fill all our gaps in the corrugation and whatnot, and obviously haven't painted the front yet until we've sliced all of that off and cleaned everything up out here ready for paint. Inside, the floor's toast. It just got covered in so many bits of glue and glue residue and shit that then got dust in it and stuff, so I don't need a full resand to get it back to looking cool like I had. And the problem is I was using spray polyurethane on it, and unfortunately spray polyurethane and what do you call it, polystyrene here don't mix. The polyurethane would melt it, so I really kind of need to do my interior painting first, and that's heaps of work to do with that, and then sand the floor and recoat it with spray or even a foam safe polyurethane compound. Probably better to use a brush polyurethane and like do a thick nice job so it's like really polished floor effect, but obviously big fat sand to do before then because it's just buggered. Anyway, we're all watertight and we're fully insulated, well, as far as we're going to be. Obviously I'm about to, before we're losing light, so I figured I'd video now, but I'm going to go through and clean up all the overspray residue from the expanding foam that's gone in here. But basically we just slice in flush with this polystyrene to the PVC. This stuff doesn't stick to the PVC at all, so just basically one line, slice in, peel it away, and then I'll have a nice edge that I can gap fill and paint eventually. What I'm thinking now that I've got some power and I've got vents, is that we will probably move in soon actually, so I'll go back to having my own personal space, but also primarily because the next stage of things, which is mainly interior work and exactly where we're going to fit lights and how the ventilation works and how much of it we're going to need and lots of other bits and pieces. I really need to be living in here to sort of, is that vent big enough or does it need to be fan forced? How big does my intake vent need to be to match with that and stuff? I mean, there's some basic math and stuff I can do and just by eye. I've got a lot of experience with this stuff, but there's no substitute for just being in the space. So yeah, now that we've got it structurally pretty much complete and we're starting to do things that are more aesthetics based, I think I'll move in soon. But first of all, we need to cut that piece of board up as my old desk and turn it into a shelf that runs on these runners right to the back there. Now we can look at the back. So things went wrong. I had a really big mare of a time getting the insulation in on these triangular areas and stuff. I don't know, I just had a bad couple of days and I was just measuring everything fucking wrong over and over again. I got so frustrated, as you can see. I'm starting to rush and just fuck it, jam shit in there and shit. So I had a bad time, but we got it all done. I mean, it's functional at least. It will require quite a lot of filling to look smooth and nice, but one of the advantages is I tend to use very dark colors and or matte black on lots of things. It's been pointed out to me that doing matte black in my interior would be really no good for light. I'm aware of that. My last unit that I lived in was matte black interior as well. There's a reason there's much bigger windows on this one, because that allows me to have a matte black interior and a very brightly lit, right in the sun sort of a space up the front where I work, but down here's down the back. This is where I'm going to be sleeping and storing stuff. So in the lower section here will be where I sleep. There'll be 2 plastic tubs sitting in this area right up against the wall with most of my storage in, and a little bit of space between the top of them and the shelf that'll fit on here, which will be just where you put, you know, nebulous bedside table type crap. Down either side will be, well, the mount set up for all my solar equipment there, which as you can see is now recharging and happily juicing away there. It all ran down completely low, hasn't been used in months, so it'll take a day or so, well, probably tomorrow morning, as long as we've got some sun to bring it all back up to full charge and stuff, which will mean we'll have lots more green lights there. But we have many green lights and no flashy things. This means life is good. And blue lights on our charger indicates that's working as well, so all good. Anyway, back to this. So this whole area will be quite dark, is the point, deliberately, because it's a sleep and storage area. So there'll be a small light for reading and being able to see my storage stuff when I'm jumping in under here to grab things out of the storage tubs. And then on top of the shelf that'll fit across here will be my clothes, right next to the vent. Something I've learnt recently. Well, over time doing these things, you always put your clothes nearest to a vent, anything that might be a bit damp or anything like that, because otherwise you get mold. Speaking of which, thing we learnt on our last one, you never make shelves that run all the way and stick to the wall completely when you're doing built-in furniture. You always leave a bit of a gap so that there's airflow around the shelf completely. Otherwise, again, you get mold, you get issues. So in this case, we've got a sort of 10-12 millimeter gap here, just naturally because of the framing, so the shelf will run over here and butt up against this framing. It doesn't quite make its way to the polystyrene. That should be enough to make the necessary gap. Messy job here, that will require a whole bunch of neatening up, but basically I just drilled through from the outside to fit this piece of stuff in, the vent unit. As you can see, so that just sits like that at the moment, so if you blow on it, it kind of, it opens a bit and moves by itself. They're very light little louvers, so I think if I put a fan in, that'll work really cool. But for now, what I'll do is I'll manually open them at times and stuff and just use them as a manual vent. In winter, generally, you don't need fan forcing, you just need a good intake and a good outlet, and convection does the work for you. But that whole area will have to be tidied up internally to make it look nicer. Again, this is down the dark storage area, so most of the shit will be pretty much invisible anyway. I don't really give a crap, so not too worried. Down this end is where we're going to want things to look a bit nicer, because this is my brightly lit area, so we're going to have, like, you know, lights around the place and things. I'll figure out exactly where I best like working at different times of day, and then, you know, where I like doing it at night, so I've got like a good idea where to put lights and things. And basically down this end will be the end of my bed, a bit of a sort of a sit down on the floor workspace, where we put our boots in the corner so we can keep them inside. They're rather expensive, I worry people will nick them when I leave them outside. Yeah, anyway, I think that's about it. I'm waffling. That's about it. Got a vent in, power's on. Had a bit of a sweep to clean here. I'm about to make a shitload of mess, cutting all this foam back off the wall and neatening all that up. But yeah, either tonight or tomorrow night I can pretty much move in and start crashing in here and sort of figure out, oh, I need to get a lock on the door yet as well. I've got it in my storage box there, I just haven't sort of figured out how I want to do that. I've got an internal pin and tumbler sort of, I think they call it a barrel lock. So it works like a rifle bolt, you know, like those ones you like that, and stick it in. So I've got one of them internally to shut the door internally and lock it. That also subs in as the handle, basically. I'll put that in that corner somewhere into the floor or whatever. And on the outside I've got a latch that goes onto a D-ring type thing, so it's more of a like a padlock, gate lock type system, and I'm thinking of finding a way so I can kind of actually get that to latch under the house, so it's kind of invisible and you have to like reach under to do the... I was just thinking of using a carabiner with it, actually, because I'm not super security conscious. It's more just to keep the door closed when it's windy and stuff like that, and keep the place weathertight. Speaking of which, we'll have to put little mini eaves above the door here, possibly above that vent system I've got over this side. And yeah, so there's lots of little mini jobs to do, really, but I think we're in a position where we can occupy the space. And the advantage being it looks like a piece of shit on the inside, obviously. There's just crap everywhere, so that's really going to motivate me to get off my ass and sort of sand the floor and repolyurethane it and repaint and do all these other things. I'm finding I'm a bit unmotivated with the project lately. I sort of lie around on the couch, think, yeah, I could get up and drink some coffees and just sit on this couch and draw pictures today instead of doing some work on my house kind of thing. And I'm just getting a bit slowed down on the project and losing motivation. So I was like, well, let's move in. That'll motivate us, because then every morning I'm going to wake up and go, ugh, that looks like shit, I want to paint it. Anyway, almost up to 10 minutes. It's the longest video I've done in a while. You'll have a good one, and I'll get back to you with another video at some point when we've got something better to show, I guess.